Hello, Momentarily here to the topic of the week video. This week I'll be talking about some contradictions that Legend of Korra has with itself. This week's topic was submitted by Tumblr user mademoiseli, and her topic is, momentarily putting Avatar The Last Airbender aside, what are some of the ways that Legend of Korra's own canon contradicts itself? It could be in general, or you could focus on a particular book. Now, I can't go over literally everything. I mean, I'd probably have to scour over the show to go over every minute detail that they forgot, but there are a few basic things, and I'll talk about a few general ones, but there's some stuff from Book 2 that I really wanted to talk about, because, oh boy, Book 2. Book 2 is so bad that even the stans will admit that it's the weaker season. Now, granted, each season is bad, so it's not like it's somehow different from the others, but it's a particularly bad one. One of the things that really sticks out to me in Book 2, and some of the other books, is just how blatant they ignore their own continuity. Now, there's plenty of issues of continuity in regards to Avatar The Last Airbender, particularly in Book 2. You want to talk about the spirit portals that were just never mentioned in Avatar The Last Airbender? No, they didn't exist until they became some sort of a massive, significant plot point that Bright pulled out of their butts. But okay, ignoring that, and just looking at Legend of Korra, one of the things that sticks out to me, and I noticed this when I was watching Book 2, I was scratching my head going, what? Is when they tried to completely scrub the Order of the White Lotus from Book 2. Now, the compound that Korra grew up in, she was taken to there by the White Lotus. It was made by the White Lotus because Aang wanted to protect the next Avatar. Perfectly reasonable, but the Order of the White Lotus kind of misunderstood and took things in a wrong direction. Instead of just making sure that Korra was protected, they isolated her and trained her. And she grew up naive, not even particularly really understanding the concept of money, because in her own words, well, everything's always been provided to her. She's had all of her training, all of her food, anything that she would want, she's already had it provided to her just because she's the Avatar. Which does help explain her completely self-absorbed and just bratty personality from Book 1. If only she got development. But then, in Book 2, they tried to establish that Tenzin and Tonraq, Korra's father, were the ones who created the compound, and they tried to create this drama with Tonraq. Like, why? Like, there's already enough drama with a civil war that takes a good chunk of the season. Do we really need petty daddy drama with Korra? Especially because, as far as we've ever saw with Tonraq and Senna in Book 1, the little itty bits that we got, they just seemed like loving and supportive parents. But now Tonraq is this oppressive, patriarchal figure, and I'm just like, what? Wait, like, wasn't he totally fine with her going to Republic City before? Like, okay, if you wanted to establish that it was after the events of Book 1 that he became really overprotective of her and restrictive, that's one thing, that actually could work. But trying to establish that he and Tenzin, like, what the heck does Tenzin have to do with this? Tenzin's like a family friend, mainly because, you know, Korra is the reincarnation of his father, but why? Like, why? It's to cause drama. That's literally it. That's so much of this show just pulls drama out of nowhere. Book 2 does this a lot, because they apparently didn't have enough. Apparently, a civil war between the two water tribes just wasn't enough drama. Like, why would you do something like this? And the Order of the White Lotus, as far as I remember, is not so much seen or mentioned in Book 2. They were like, this wasn't something that happened on accident because they forgot. They were specifically trying to keep the Order of the White Lotus out. It's like, did you guys think you were just gonna get away with blatantly ignoring your own show's canon? Especially from, it's like the Order of the White Lotus is all over the place in Book 1. Then in Book 2, they're just gone. And it's not like there's some sort of explanation for this. They're just not there. Because they need to focus the conflict on Tonraq and Tenzin. And it ends up getting resolved anyway, so it's like not very long, and it's not even a focus, so why would you even bother with this? Another thing that a bit relates to this, and is something that I was rolling my eyes when I first heard about this. Korra is revealed to be Water Tribe royalty, so she wasn't already enough of a Mary Sue. Like, Tonrock is a banished prince from the Northern Water. Alright. There's no need to make Korra some sort of lost royalty. We already had our royalty member. Her name is Asami. But of course, Asami doesn't really get to do anything. She just serves the plot whenever Bright, remember she exists. But why would you do this? It was all, sure, they never explicitly go into Korra's family tree in book 1, but everything that we saw from it, it was specifically establishing that her parents were just living in a little tiny hut and sort of in the Southern Water Tribe, no big deal. They were your average people, and that was kind of like I thought that was kind of the thing. The Avatar could be anyone. It doesn't matter, what their birth status is. The Avatar can come from anywhere, and of course, Korra being a child of these two random waterbenders in the Southern Water Tribe, of course. Yeah. Especially because, the Order of the White Lotus had to make a trip to find her when they heard of word of a child exhibiting Avatar abilities. But no, Tonrock has this big dramatic backstory where he was banished Water Tribe royalty. And again, this is just playing into the stupid drama. But, why would you even change Korra's story? And ultimately, nothing changes. Okay, if she had Una, being her uncle, doesn't actually have really any effect on the story. Korra being related to Water Tribe royalty doesn't even have much of an effect on the story. It's almost like they just ticked off another, secret royalty. She's actually a princess. You're just checking off a checkbox for no reason. I like the idea of Korra coming from a nobody and then ascending to this position so quickly as a child, and then going from a nobody, 0 to hero, basically, just like that, and then becoming this selfish, arrogant brat because she's been taken care of almost her entire life, and being told she's the Avatar and she's amazing, and sure, she had an arrogant attitude as a child, which was only made worse by this. But then book 2 is just hey, what if we just completely change it for no big reason? It's stupid. Another thing with, and this is kind of more of an overall thing, not just with book 2, but one of the things that annoys me is you have, in book 1, it establishes that Tenzin is the only airbending master. His children are the only airbenders. Of course, that makes sense. That his father was, the last airbender. So, Aang dedicated a lot of time to his, to building up his culture again. Because that's something you saw in Avatar The Last Airbender, where Aang got really sensitive about seeing the destruction of his culture. So it's understandable why he created Air Temple Island, why he started the Air Acolytes. These are these people who volunteered to live the air nomad lifestyle to help Aang rebuild his culture, and it really makes for an emotional story for Tenzin as a man who's desperately trying to revitalize his culture and pass on airbending, and he's the only airbending master. After Aang died, Tenzin was the airbending master of the world. And that's actually something that I did like, and I liked seeing how Tenzin felt this weight on him to build up the entire culture of the air nomads was on his shoulders to pass down. And you can see why he gets a little strict with that. Then in book 3, hey, come on, let's just bring airbenders back because reasons. I don't even know, I can't remember if this was explicitly explained in the show. I know people say this a lot, and I've gone with this idea that, because Korra kept the spirit portals open, then the world balanced itself and decided to just create airbenders, because that can happen. You can just do that. So let's just totally trash all of the angst that Tenzin had, because now they're just airbenders now. It's like, yeah, it would take several generations to get airbenders to repopulate properly, because you had one airbender coming from Aang, and then, you know, Tenzin has several children, and then, you know, hopefully they'll grow up, then they'll have children, and those children will become airbenders, and it's like, yeah, you know, it's going to take a while, but nope. I guess they got a little impatient with that. So let's just totally trash that. Like, why? Like, this doesn't even make any sense. Like, if you're telling me that the world can just rebalance itself, you're telling me that no, in the 70 plus years since you know, Avatar: The Last Airbender, no airbenders just popped up because the world balanced itself out. No, Aang never found out about the spirit portals so that he could open them up and create new airbenders. It's something that, like, this is something that all these contradictions happen solely because Bright wanted a plot to happen. They could not create something naturally, so they just changed things. It's a problem you see with plenty of other badly written shows like Lost or Ruby, where things will literally just change on a dime because the writers need a plot to happen, and they have this idea, but instead of saying, this doesn't make sense with the story, so let's tweak it and change it so that it'll work. It'd be like, nope, just cram it in, square peg round hole, and just make it work. It just works, guys. Ignoring just how little sense it makes. Another change going from actually book 1 to book 2 that really pissed off a lot of people, and pissed me off too, was that Boomy went from being described as a wild card military commander. I mean, this guy's a high-ranking commander within the United Forces. So you don't just get to that point by accident. You don't become respected by someone like, you know, General Iroh just on happenstance. But then book 2 shows Boomy as being some sort of incompetent buffoon. And in fact, the only time he actually gets any kind of respect is when he starts getting airbending randomly. Yeah, because that's the solution. Non-benders can't be important. No. Non-benders. No. Bright have some weird thing with non-benders where it's like, what, like, look at Avatar: The Last Airbender, guys. I know Bright didn't write much of that show, and that most of that has to do with all the other amazing writers. But come on, you have so many great non-benders, and then you get to Legend of Korra, and it's like, non-benders aren't important. And it's like, everyone was so excited to see Boomy when they heard that Boomy was going to become a recurring character in book 2. Everyone's like, yeah, and then you see Boomy in the beginning of book 2, and he's some sort of bum with a beer belly. He's just sitting there like, ah! A military commander from the United Forces, apparently some sort of raging buffoon. And I know this sort of connects to Avatar: The Last Airbender, but because it's brought up in book 2, you have the whole storyline with, you know, them having angst over Aang and how Tenzin was, like, given this massive favoritism. And it's like, in the way that Aang is portrayed in Legend of Korra, it's like, you can't even ignore Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, I want to try to discuss this as much as I can within Legend of Korra itself. But to be honest, Legend of Korra relies so heavily on Avatar: The Last Airbender that you really can't ignore it. It's like the way Aang is portrayed as some sort of douchebag father, like, what? It's like, this is another thing where they had this idea for a plot, and they had to make something happen. Like, oh yeah, Kia and Boomy carry this significant trauma from their childhoods that makes them, they have just this, you know, resentment of Aang. And Tenzin's like, well, I never noticed anything. Like, you didn't notice that your siblings were left out of everything? Because I guess Bright just had this idea that, hey, maybe there's family drama between, you know, Tenzin, Kia, and Boomy. Wait, what do you mean there wouldn't be any drama with Aang and Katara like that? Let's make it happen anyway. It's like there's this consistent theme, like there's a consistent thing in Legend of Korra that you know, the more you watch the show, the more you notice it's just like anything will happen for the sole sake of pushing forward a plot point. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter if it completely destroys everything from Avatar: The Last Airbender, the beloved predecessor show to this. Whatever happens, just need to make it happen. Make it work. And this really just shows this shows you just how little Bright care about anything that they do. If you can't even respect what was done in the award-winning, the much-beloved show, I don't know if it actually won any direct awards, but the much-beloved and well-respected show Avatar: The Last Airbender, that you guys take credit for, if you guys can't even bother to respect that, it's obvious why they wouldn't even bother to respect their own show that they did have complete and total control over. Because Bright are hacks. If once upon a time Brian and Mike could have written were actually good writers who had genuine inspiration, their egos have inflated to the point where they couldn't do squat. Even bringing in Avatar: The Last Airbender writers, it's obviously like they were completely throttled by Bright, and that Bright had this iron grip. Because if you compare the writing from Tim Hendricks and Josh Hamilton from Legend of Korra to their writing in Voltron, it's a night and day difference. So, Bright are bad. Bright are bad creators. Just flat out bad creators. They may have done good work in Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it wasn't because of them. It was really because of people like Aaron Ahaz, who was the head writer. And I've said that multiple times, and I'll always say it. Yes, Aaron Ahaz is one of the reasons why the show is good. But it blows my mind just how blatantly Legend of Korra completely contradicts itself. I mean, I'd have to go and rewatch the show specifically because I know there's a lot of things that don't make any sense. Maybe if they're not outright contradictions, they make no sense. Like Mako, going from an orphan to a lone wolf detective in the police force in 6 months? Yeah, no. It would have made more sense if Bolin went into the police, since, he's an earthbender. And he laments not knowing at metal bending in book 1, but, that's not a contradiction. That's just something that's stupid. So yeah, Legend of Korra is stupid. And it's so funny that even after all these years later, after the show ended, there's always something that you can find to talk about with this show and what it did wrong. Because, oh boy, did it do so much wrong. So I think that's about it for this. I did talk about a few of the blatant contradictions that Legend of Korra had with itself, and I'm sure if I went back and rewatched the show, I'd find a lot more, just thinking about it, going in about, Amon being a waterbender felt completely out of left field, even just in book 1, within the same season. But shoot. I mean, I would have to go back and specifically rewatch it to pick apart all of them, but phew, that would be torture. So yeah. If you want to submit a topic to me, you can comment below if you're on YouTube. If you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and put topic, and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure to follow the rules that I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. So if there's any contradictions that you remember from Legend of Korra contradicting itself, please comment below. And thank you for watching.